Well, thank you so much for joining our Tuesday evening webinar on careers in community. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us all today. My name's Amy Jessie. I'm the OT team leader at Independent Rehabilitation Services. I'm joined by the lovely Julia Kent, who's one of our amazing Grade 2 OTs at IRS. So this webinar is presenting on careers in community. We hope to give you some insight into working in the community through an IRS lens, what we do at IRS, what to look for when looking at a role in the community, and I guess how to take the next steps in your OT journey in the community space. So firstly, I wanted to make an acknowledgement to country. So we acknowledge the Burong people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional owners of the land on which our office is located. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and we acknowledge and uphold the continuing connections to land and waterways. So to get started, we wanted to introduce ourselves a little further. As I mentioned, I'm Amy, the OT team leader, and I've worked at IRS for nearly 12 and a half years. I started IRS as a senior OT and progressed to the OT team leader role over 7 years ago. So I have always had a special interest in working with clients with a neuro condition, and over the years have worked across the full continuum of care in Australia and overseas. But I've always kind of come back to finding that the community is really the most meaningful environment to work and meet our goals for our clients. I've got a small caseload, so it really helps me to keep my hands in supporting clients, and I really enjoy that part of my work. But also my main focus really, I guess, is supporting and leading the large IRS OT team that we have. So Julia, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Amy. So as Amy said, I'm Julia. So I'm one of the Grade 2 OTs at Independent Rehab Services. So I started working at IRS just over 3 years ago now, and can truly say that I have loved it from the get-go. So before working at IRS, I was working in residential aged care, where I developed a particular interest in working with clients with neuro conditions and complex comorbidities. So we'll go into it a lot further in the presentation, but I do absolutely love working as a community therapist, and I do find that IRS is a perfect fit for me.
Lovely. So next I thought we'd cover kind of a little bit about the webinar presentation today. So we'll look at kind of who we are and what we do. We'll just look a little bit about our values at IRS. A bit more in depth in terms of actually what it means to work in the community as a neuro OT, why we work in a community private OT space. We'll talk through a few common myths that might come up, and also, I guess, discuss career opportunities and what you should look out for or expect, along with providing plenty of opportunity for any burning questions that you might have at the end. And for a little bit of housekeeping, I know you're all on mute, so continue to do that during the presentation. As I mentioned, there'll be plenty of opportunity for questions, but please put anything in the chat if you'd like to do as you think along the way. And also, as we're recording the session, so for those who have registered but can't make it. So who are we and what do we do at IRS? So at Independent Rehab Services, we really specialise in community neuro rehab for adults. So we are community-based, solely community-based. We're within clients' homes, local community where it really matters. And we do specialise in working with adults with varied neurological conditions. Our approach is really evidence-based. We're very person-client-centred. We provide a holistic service within a multidisciplinary team. And this year, IRS actually turns 25, so having a bit of a celebration. Kate Phillips, who is our practice principal, she's a highly experienced and passionate community neurophysio who identified a need for community neuro-specific service, which provide MDT services, so OT, speech and physio, back in 1999. So it was really the first private practice of its kind, and we are really a well-established practice, and really just passionate about collaborating with our clients and their support networks to really achieve the best outcome for them. Just a little bit, I guess, about our values. We are at IRS really value driven. We're not profit driven, we're value driven. So we align with a set of values that we live by every day, and these values really make us who we are. Hopefully, you'll hear throughout the presentation from Julia and myself, I guess, the way we show up every day and how we live and demonstrate these values. And I guess I just urge anyone who is looking to move into the community that I guess you really look to find your fit of values that align for you and what resonates for you, as it's really just so important. For me, a couple stand out, obviously resonate with all of them, but things like expertise, I guess as an experienced clinician, really focusing on evidence-based practice and the quality care that we provide. And this is through a few examples, like our partnerships with external research providers, and really kind of providing plenty of PD opportunities for not only yourself engaging in PD programs, but also supporting others to do so. Leading change, we have the privilege to be able to, I guess, identify when things aren't working and when their service improvement is needed. So we really promote through portfolios and promote through, I guess, engagement to really look at and how we can improve and change the status quo. And lastly, I really like the inspiration, as we really try and strive to inspire each other through sharing our working wins or sharing bouquets each week, and various ways of kind of enjoying our peer support. So I'll throw over to Julia now.
Oh, thank you. So the next slide, I guess, is mainly just chatting about what working in the community as a neuro OT actually kind of looks like on a day-to-day basis. So as Amy said, we obviously specialise in neurological rehab. So all of our clients do have a primary neuro diagnosis aged 18 and over. So neurodiagnoses are obviously very broad. At the moment, I have clients with acquired brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, progressive neurological conditions such as MND and Parkinson's, and stroke on my caseload. But these are just some examples of clients on my caseload at the moment. There's a huge variety that you can be exposed to. So almost all of our clients do come with quite complex comorbid diagnoses as well, in addition to complex sociocultural factors as well. We typically work with clients for longer periods of time, which is something that I really love about this job. So we get to know them really well, supporting them to overcome challenges and to see some incredible wins along the way, which is really lovely. So the majority of our clients are TAC, NDIS, and work cover funded, which obviously all come with their own nitty-gritty processes. We do have some private clients that we work with as well. So it's safe to say that there is literally never a dull moment working at IRS, with all of our clients being super unique and, as I said, often rather complex. So as examples of some interventions that I'm working on at the moment, so some of my clients are currently moving into disability accommodation. One's just started a volunteer role at Vinnie's, which she's loving. I'm looking at vehicle prescription, wheelchair prescription, holiday planning, pressure care, return to sexuality and intimacy, which is another area that I really enjoy, and complex home modifications as well. So as you can hear, obviously every day is really different and always very interesting, which I do love. So as an OT at IRS, you honestly never work in isolation, I find. So you'll typically be working closely alongside neuropsychs, physios, speech pathologists, rehab physicians, and equipment specialists. You always work very closely with the client and their families and friends, but also often their house managers, employees, group facilitators, etc. So there's always lots of people involved. Thanks, Amy. So on to the next slide. So I guess moving away from the information about the client caseload, I wanted to provide a bit more information about what it looks like. I suppose the parts outside of the clinical work on what things look like as a community OT at IRS. So in my opinion, the autonomy and the flexibility is definitely a major perk. At IRS, we do manage our own schedules. So we book in our own client visits and our own non-face-to-face work as we see fit. So I typically like to see kind of 1 or 2 clients per day. However, some people like to see lots more and some people see less, and that's no problem. It's completely up to you. Across the week, I do make it my mission to work from a cafe at least once, often more than once. And I do love to take a long lunch break to get to a yoga class or catch up with a friend or go for a walk, particularly on a Friday, whatever you like. So IRS is very flexible in what your work days and times look like. So many people at IRS are parents, which means that you can start late, finish early, whatever you need. And we are encouraged to make the job fit really nicely around our other commitments and to prioritize our own well-being first and foremost. So what your caseload looks like really varies from clinician to clinician. So at the moment, I have some clients and some other non-clinical work that's keeping me very busy. So I have less on my caseload. So at the moment, I've got 16 active clients. However, some clinicians have lots more than that. So it's just kind of on a case-by-case basis. Something that I really enjoy at IRS is we do lots of joint working, which is a new thing we've really started doing. So this means that a client will have 2 OTs involved. And this is something that I particularly enjoy because we really obviously can bounce ideas and learn off one another. We have designated catchment areas to try and avoid too much driving, which is good. As an example, lots of my clients are in Craigieburn, so I'll intentionally head out to Craigieburn for the day and then see them all kind of at once on that morning. In addition to our client work, we're supported to be a part of projects and quality assurance work that we call portfolios. So as examples, I'm involved in the sexuality and intimacy portfolio at the moment, and I'm also on the risk team, which means that I assess other clinicians' risk assessments to try and keep them as safe as possible when they're out in the community. Some other projects and portfolios are to do with manual handling, behaviours of concern, staff wellbeing, and they're just to name a few. So at IRS, we have designated professional and clinical supervisors with formal and informal catch-ups. So in my opinion, the supervision program is absolutely incredible, and from what I know, I think is quite unique to IRS. So with professional supervision, we have protected time to work on specific professional goals. So this might be having courageous and challenging conversations. It might be boundary setting. It might be time management, whatever you're wanting to work on. As a senior OT, you'll support others, likely with clinical and professional supervision. You might support with students as well, but you still get this support as well, which again, I think is very unique and special at IRS. From my experience, IRS is very supportive and keen to help with career development, even as a senior OT. There are some clinicians who have been at IRS for 10 plus years and they're still being exposed to new opportunities all the time, which is very cool. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Julia. So the next slide is just actually talking about a few common myths that you might hear, I guess, in working in a community private practice. So I think the number one thing that comes up is around KPIs. So yes, KPIs are needed to sustain a viable business and be irresponsible not to have KPIs. However, at IRS, we look at this more so as actually your weekly clinical hours, balanced with all the other non-clinical activities that you do each week. So IRS really values that we capture our clients' work that we do and those clinical hours as it's really the reason why we became health professionals. But we also value the engagement in all of the other professional development offerings and wellbeing activities available to you. So each clinician actually has an individual clinical hours target range. And within this target range, we capture, as I said, all of that non-clinical roles and responsibilities. So, for example, if you're supervising, if you're on portfolio work, if you're the risk crusader like Julia, you'd have all of that time kind of captured, along with obviously your other allocated supervision, mentoring, clinical engagement time. So the clinical hours target is really realistic and achievable. The second myth, I guess, that kind of comes up, or the second kind of topic of conversation, is around the amount of report writing and documentation that we need to do. And I guess in the world that we kind of live in, I guess there is report writing and documentation requirements. And again, it wouldn't be responsible of us not to meet our medico-legal requirements. That we need to do. And I guess we value at IRS the importance of comprehensive report writing to really clinically justify what you're requesting and to strive to achieve the best outcome for your clients. Having said that, obviously we look to streamline and work towards making this as efficient as possible for you. So having templates of different reports, having a database of examples of reports, I guess really thinking about, the use of that flexibility in your day. So finding the best time of day for you to kind of crack on with reports that works for you. And also looking at kind of offering professional mentoring sessions as well that might focus on things like caseload management skills or kind of time management, if you're making that transition into the community. But we also have a wonderful business support team. They do all the chase up of funding requests, all the referral intake queries, invoicing, all of those kind of admin elements of things, so that you can really concentrate on the client work at hand. I guess the last element, and Julia's touched on this already, is I guess that sense that you might be isolated. But I guess, we are community therapists, but again, obviously there's plenty of opportunity at IRS to really connect with the team through either that kind of collaborative work with you're doing as an MDT with your clients and the teamwork within that, to obviously the connection that you have through team meetings, through all the PD that we do, through the wellbeing and social activities, such as we always have a social Wednesday lunch each week. We also do have, for our clinicians, our office is based in Carnegie, but for our clinicians who are kind of based and live in the Western area, we have a Western hub so that they can connect as a team as well on a weekly basis. So I think one thing in terms of from IRS and our culture is that it's often described as feeling like a little bit of the family, and we certainly ensure that, I guess, that connection is important. So the next slide is really, I guess, looking at, taking that next transition to working in the community, and knowing that your lifelong learning and your individual career goals should really still be of the utmost importance. So at IRS, we've already kind of touched on these, I guess, in terms of some of the supports and professional development activities that are offered from the moment you step in the door, right through to many years down the track, and kind of what we offer to really tailor, I guess, that individual career journey for you. So obviously we do have a comprehensive induction program when you first start to really help you kind of get set up and running with a lot of, I guess, the new processes that you might be learning, along with building up your caseload. We have things like new starter buddy resilience programs and peer supports from grade 1 to supervisor peer supports. We really have quite a unique career journey development program. So we look to, after your induction period, we look to kind of hone in, I guess, on kind of what those next steps of your clinical, professional, value-based and wellbeing development goals are. And we set that out in what we say is a career journey development plan. And this is reviewed in each of your supervision sessions, and then reviewed on a mid-year and a yearly time point. We also have recently really re-looked at and tailored our position descriptions. So we have these available to really help you, I guess, look at what goals you might want to set for yourself, We also, alongside that, I guess, have plenty of opportunity to support your career growth, and I guess that sense of opportunity to be able to make a grade transition when you are ready for that. We have, I guess, kind of more fluid elements in terms of our structure, which might be a little bit different to the public health setting, where I guess we really look to support clinicians in that growth and that readiness to make a great transition. Well, I guess we've already spoken about our unique kind of supervision model, which has both the professional and clinical supervision. And we also have mentoring programs whereby for both clinical settings, so I guess offering mentoring sessions with clients that you do want a little bit more hands-on, or that kind of second opinion from another OT in an area that you might not have worked in or would like to upskill in, along with obviously some professional mentoring opportunities. We have a clinical education program, so I guess we've really tailored that probably in this year, in terms of we have a clinical lead OT now who really has looked to tailor the education and professional development education for the OT team this year. So really kind of looking at what the team's needs are and really supporting the clinicians. So Julia actually did a fantastic education session today on sexuality and intimacy, which was really well attended and a great thing for the OTs to get involved in. We also have external PD budget and offerings. So that is 5 days for a full-timer over a calendar year to, I guess, look at what external PD you might want to engage in based on your goals that you've set for the year. And I guess overall, the culture that we have is really supporting, I guess, your reflective practice and your knowledge sharing. So we help to, I guess, celebrate working wins, but still learn from our mistakes and support each other along the journey in a really inclusive and supportive manner. So I guess it's probably really throwing out to the participants. If you have any particular questions for Julia or myself in regards to, I guess, anything that we've talked about today, or any kind of burning questions that you might have. I'll check in the chat as well. No, there's nothing from the chat.
No pressure.
No, exactly.
I might have a question.
Oh, thanks, Amy. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, so I guess one of my questions is around any research opportunities. So whether or not that's personally pursued or, through a course or something like that. So it's something that I'm quite interested in. I am still a student, which, I would consider that too. I think I'm going to attend there's a new grad webinar that I'll also attend. But just in regards to research opportunities, I think I would really like to go down that stream of having clinical work as well as pursuing research. So I guess, how does that fit in with you guys?
Yeah.
Or is it something that could be supported in some way?
Yeah, I guess it depends on kind of your research avenue and kind of what your interest is. From a research participation at the moment, I guess I can comment that we do have an opportunity at the moment engaging with Monash Health around the use of return to work app for clients with ABI. So I guess research participation is kind of based on the clinical work that we do in terms of, I guess, that opportunity to engage in that area. In the past, we've had various research projects happening through IRS. So again, there's been further opportunity for clinicians to participate in that nature. So I guess it's probably kind of what's happening at the time, and probably how that sits along kind of what research you want to get into, and I guess your particular kind of interest, and how that sits alongside your role as a clinician, OT clinician at IRS.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions from the participants? Not at this stage.
I feel
Have
like
you?
I'll have questions about the new grad, but it'll be for another
Yeah.
forum, I think. So I'm holding on to those.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, we can talk through that now. We will probably aim to have a webinar. Probably we tend to, I think, probably around like August time or September. Well, we had it last year. But yeah, if you've got any questions about, I guess, yeah, that kind of commencement of a new graduate role. So you'll be graduating at the end of this year, Amy, or?
Yeah. So I'm fourth year with ACU, so I'll be graduating well, I'll be done by the end of October. But as to where APRA and that kind of stuff comes in, I have a feeling it still takes a bit of time. But is that something that you can secure job positions in advance, or is there a kind of time of year that you guys would advertise for new grad positions?
Yeah, I guess it's from a recruitment perspective, we do accept applications quite early. So I guess it's really around your kind of readiness to put that application in. So yeah, we're open to starting that process quite early on. I think we've had applications before kind of around June or so, is probably just from previous, but yeah, we're certainly open to continuing conversation in terms of yeah, your interest along your journey of completing your studies and then your, starting your new grad year.
Yeah, okay. Because yeah, I guess what I was also wondering, I've only had a brief exposure to community through one of my placements, but from what I could tell, like I think it was with Monash Health, and they really needed to be a grade 2. Like there was no grade 1 positions with them. So I guess I'd be wondering how the new graduate fits into the role, because community can be quite it really requires a lot of independence as well, as what I could see. So I was just wondering how that supervision and how
Yeah,
you kind of lead into becoming a clinician in that space
yeah,
from student
yeah.
position.
Yeah, so we have 3 new graduates actually from the start of this year, starting at IRS, and it is very well supported. So you have a designated supervisor, you have weekly formal supervision, informal around that. I think we build your caseload. We look at the clients that you're working with in terms of clients that are maybe having some other conditions who know that client well, along with picking up new clients that we think might be a good starting point. We do, as Julie said, we do a lot of joint working. So it might be that you're actually coming in to do a specific, to work on a specific goal maybe with that client, and do a lot of joint working alongside another experienced clinician. We have a lot of mentoring. So the mentoring program offers that kind of hands-on opportunity to, when you see your clients, to go out with another therapist. So it might be if it's even your first initial assessment or functional capacity assessment, to doing a MAT assessment or a wheelchair assessment, for example. Whatever it is in terms of your client caseload, we'll kind of look to supporting you with the mentoring as another opportunity. We do have a more tailored. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm just wary that Christy might have to
Oh.
go. She's just asked a question. I'm sorry to
perfect.
interrupt you, Amy.
No,
Just in
please
case
do.
Christy needs to run off, but then we can definitely chat about the new grad
Of course.
program further. Christy, to answer your question, so you do use your own car. So what we do is we log our hours and log our odometer readings, and then you get reimbursed for that, and you can obviously claim it on tax at the end as well. Sorry to have interrupted you, Amy.
No, I wasn't monitoring the chat, and I can probably just waffle on forever. Yeah, but we have lots of PD offerings. Our clinical engagement program that I spoke about has a dedicated sessions for our early career clinicians as well when they first start. So yeah, plenty of support there. I'll open it back to the floor. So if there's any other questions that anyone else wanted to ask. Christy, did you have anything else burning? Probably not at this stage. So anything else from you, Amy, or otherwise I guess I can
My only other thing was kind of, I guess I do have quite a particular interest in MS. Is that a clientele that you guys also see? It's exclusively MS. I'm just trying to figure out where the MS people kind of sit into services.
Yeah, we do certainly. I have a client with MS on my caseload, and have a bit of a special interest in MS. So yes, we see clients with MS. Yeah.
I would say that progressive neurological conditions are quite common on our wait list, which are very, very interesting to work with. There are quite a few clients with MS. Awesome. Christy's just responded.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, I'm cooking dinner.
Completely understand. It's yeah. Hopefully you're cooking something nice. Making me jealous. Wonderful. Anything else, Amy, or?
I don't think so. I guess if it's worth mentioning, the reason that I came across IRS was because one of my peers had placement with you and spoke very highly of the organization. So I guess I'll just put that out there for anyone watching the Q&A.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. Yeah, we've had some really positive experiences with ACU and partnership with students. So, but lovely to receive that feedback. We again, and Julia said, obviously, we really enjoy supporting student placements at IRS, and that's part of our program as well. So I might, I guess, just lastly, I guess just thinking about, interested, if you're interested in finding your fit and having further conversations with IRS, certainly you can apply by sending your cover letter and CV to the careers email there. Certainly Julia, myself, or any of the other OTs are really up for a chat at any stage, and for new graduates sometimes we often look at offering a day on the road, which might be something that you're interested in, Amy, but obviously we're open to a chat to further your next steps. The other thing I'll just share as well is obviously just keeping connected. So we have a lot of input in terms of, and some really great traction on our socials in terms of what we're doing from a team connection perspective and from a client connections perspective as well. So please follow us and see kind of what we're up to. So I think that's probably concluding our webinar today. So thank you to everyone who has joined in, or if those who registered and couldn't make it. Hopefully the recording is interesting and helpful for your next steps and thinking about career in community. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.